Property taxes are probably one of the most misunderstood factors when evaluating what can I sell my home for, or what should I be offering for a specific home. And if you're tuning into this video, you probably have interest in New Jersey and Pennsylvania in terms of the real estate there. So you probably already have some preconceived notions in mind. I probably can guess one. It's New Jersey taxes are astronomical. The tax burden in Pennsylvania is significantly less. And in an overall sense, you're right. Taxes in New Jersey are higher than in Pennsylvania. But there are numerous factors that are going to play into what that ultimate monthly payment is. And yes, taxes are big. They're probably the second biggest factor in the monthly payment after what did you pay for the home. But today we're going to dive into what can affect your tax burden, how that can shift depending on which side of the Delaware you're on, and how different specific micro markets might lead to bigger or smaller tax burdens in the future. So we're going to talk about the differences in assessment model practices, school funding models, the predictability of taxes, which is a big factor here, especially if you're in the camp of you just think Pennsylvania is cheaper. And we're going to talk about post-purchase risk, and that's going to get into reassessments, which obviously happen on both sides, but in a different manner. So I'm hoping to provide you with a practical, probably more buyer focused in this sense, because if you're living there, you probably have a good understanding of what you're paying in taxes, for better or for worse. But we're going to walk through the Philly suburbs generally. We'll look at Bucks County, the main line, Camden County, and Burlington County. So I hope you guys can stay informed. If you're interested in this content, if you want to see more content like this in the future, please like, subscribe, do all the YouTube things. So I'm just going to go through really quick. I have a lot of stuff written down because, you're dealing with the tax code. Hard to keep it all straight, even with a whole semester of law school that tried to teach me about it. It's not always as clear as you'd hope it would be. So we're going to walk through why property taxes deserve more attention, especially with regards to impact on monthly payment, which is what buyers should be looking at. We're going to talk about how they work in Pennsylvania, how they work in New Jersey. We're going to talk about reassessment risk, which is going to be big. This is an unknown factor for a lot of people. We're going to talk about school districts and tax value relationship, how property taxes affect monthly carrying costs. This is a big one. And then we'll talk about buyer profiles, who's better suited for PA, who's better suited for Jersey. And then we'll talk about common buyer mistakes. What are buyers not fully getting when dealing with New Jersey taxes and PA? And then we'll do final takeaways. So if you want to skip to the end of this video and do a TLDR, I get it. We're talking about taxes. It's not the most fun thing in the world, but I think it's pretty interesting and it's going to have a huge impact on your future. So I suggest listening to the whole thing. So why property taxes deserve more attention. Besides your mortgage, besides what you paid for the home, these are going to be the second biggest recurring cost when buying real estate. If that doesn't get your attention, I don't know what will. This is tens, hundreds, potentially thousands of dollars that are going to be affected by where you go and how you're taxed. So what do property taxes mostly affect? Monthly affordability, long-term cost of ownership, which is big. Resale value, very big, especially if you're not planning to have this purchase be your forever home. You should understand whether you're going to have an appreciating asset, a depreciating asset, and what other buyers are going to consider, whether you're looking to sell it a year, maybe you're an investor, 5 years, 10 years, 15, 20, whatever it might be. And then we're going to also talk about buyer demand at exit. Are people going to be interested or put off by our home based on its tax burden? So, how do property taxes work in Pennsylvania? Predominantly, they are assessed at the county level. Chester County, Bucks, Delco, Chester County, Montgomery County. Then you also get municipal, so that's township or borough taxes, and then school district taxes. So what are some of the key characteristics of PA property taxes? Many counties reassess infrequently. So you could be looking at a property that has not been assessed in quite a bit of time. If that assessment hits post-purchase, you could have a very different tax bill than what you thought you were getting into. A lot of the tax bills that you're going to see if you're looking at Redfin, Zillow, Homes.com, whatever it might be, just another reason why I personally think it's good to work with a realtor, are going to be based on outdated assessments. School districts also drive a very large percentage of your tax bill in PA. And to keep in mind for buyers, purchase can trigger reassessments or appeals of your tax burden. I know when my wife and I moved in, you get a form that you can fill out. Do you want to appeal your tax burden? You go through, fill out a bunch of stats about your home, why you think it should be appealed. But that's another thing. This will bring someone out. It's almost being like, hey, come reassess. So if you don't think or know that you're going to do well with that reassessment, going through an appeal over your taxes in PA can be dangerous. So what buyers should consider predominantly in Pennsylvania? Chester County, Bucks County, Montgomery County, Delco. Buying a home can lead to you inheriting an artificially low tax bill that does not reflect the current market value. So purchase can trigger a reassessment, appealing can trigger a reassessment. It's important to keep all of this in mind to understand that what you're seeing on paper as you're going to purchase the home can be very different than what you'll actually be paying once those monthly payments start hitting. So how does this differ from New Jersey? So the key characteristics of New Jersey: more frequent reassessments. What does this lead to? A more stable tax burden, or at least a more predictable tax burden. What you see is probably going to be closer to what you're actually paying than on the Pennsylvania side. Taxes very closely model fair market value in New Jersey. You get higher effective tax rates though. Partially that gap between Pennsylvania and New Jersey is because Pennsylvania lags a little bit in their current market assessment. So if you actually got Pennsylvania current, that difference in just overall tax burden would probably be closer than it is on paper right now, but they don't do it frequently. So it is different. You just have a higher effective tax rate, but you have fewer surprises after purchase. So if you're looking at Haddonfield, Medford, Morristown, Cherry Hill, you will likely have higher taxes, but they'll be more stable, and you likely won't get any big surprises after purchase that are going to give you some shock value as you're making those monthly payments. So the reassessment risk, talked about it a bit, so I'll kind of gloss over it here. Pennsylvania has a reassessment risk in terms of their property taxes. So what can trigger this? A sale at market value. Counties or school districts may appeal assessments. They want money. That makes sense. Taxes can increase significantly if you have a reassessment and your home is valued higher than it previously was. This can be shocking post-purchase, but it's something that you need to be aware of so that you're not flabbergasted. And if you're doing modeling, as you should, of what you can afford on an annual basis, on a monthly basis, I would build in some wiggle room in terms of the taxes that you think you're going to be paying. So New Jersey reassessment, I don't like to call it risk, more of a reality. Purchase price is often reflected quickly. It's a higher baseline, but you have fewer surprises, like we just talked about. So let's talk about school districts and the tax value relationship. So in Pennsylvania, taxes vary dramatically by school district. It's reflective of, let's just call them the straight up rankings. So if you go to US News, whatever your source of high school rankings is, you're going to see, even very close to each other, some pretty big swings in where schools are ranked. And you'd think that, look, I'm only moving a few miles over. The home value is probably pretty similar. It's probably a pretty similar buyer pool overall. You're not making these big sweeping changes you are, but it feels like you shouldn't be. And that's going to affect your tax burden. Strong districts also support long-term value. This should be factored into your decision making as well. If you are risk averse and this is not your forever home, it is important to think about long-term value in the sense that maybe we're going to pay a bit higher taxes now, but if we get into one of these highly rated school districts, we're going to preserve our home's value. We're likely going to appreciate. That's what we've seen for decades now in these high value school districts. And if that is something that you are looking for, which I think it should be whether you want to stay there or not, because you never know what life's going to throw at you. But that is a big factor. Maybe more taxes in an area, but stronger resale value. In New Jersey, there's a reason that New Jersey has higher taxes, and it's reflected in the schools. You have a very robust public school system where you're not seeing as big of dips and highs in terms of school ranking as you do in parts of Pennsylvania. Strong schools, what does that lead to? A reduction in reliance on the private school system. I mean, you can just think about it. One of my best friends works at the Hill School, an unbelievable school. I think it was recently ranked #1 in private schools in the whole state. You also have schools like Malvern Prep, Episcopal, Germantown Friends. There are a lot of good private schools that siphon in a lot of money, are going to pull a decent chunk of kids out of the public school system, and that just does not happen as frequently in the Philly suburbs on the New Jersey side. Obviously, there are still good private schools in New Jersey, but the reliance on them is less severe than it is in Pennsylvania. So, what is the biggest theme so far in this video? It's predictability versus variability. Pennsylvania is the variability, New Jersey is the predictability. You might get away with just a low baseline. Maybe you don't get a reassessment for a while and you're just paying a significantly lower portion of taxes in Pennsylvania than you are in New Jersey. But in that head, you have that little niggle. This could change at any time. In Jersey, you have much more predictability. The reassessments come frequently. They are very close to the home value at all time. This makes buying a home, if you're risk averse, feel safer. You're going to be dealing with more of a burden, but that burden isn't going to change likely out of nowhere in a unbelievably significant way. Neither is inherently better. You need to decide what is best for you in your real estate purchasing opinion. How property taxes affect monthly carrying costs. Taxes directly affect affordability on a month-to-month basis. There are some key considerations that you should factor in if you're looking to buy a home either in Pennsylvania or New Jersey. The first, lenders include taxes in debt to income calculations. So in Pennsylvania, what does that mean? You can likely get a slightly bigger loan, but is that loan going to stay affordable for you over the term of the loan? Higher taxes reduce purchasing power, lower taxes increase purchasing power, but sudden tax increases can strain budgets if you're on the edge of what you can do in terms of that loan. You should be looking at varied monthly costs, and I don't mean somewhere between I can handle $1,000 and $5,000. In that window, what can you really afford to shift? Because then when you model it out, it's not going to be $1,000 difference in your purchase price. It might be, a $75 monthly difference could be a $50,000 term of the loan difference. So that's something to model out. So let's talk about the different kind of buyers, who's suited for the somewhat unpredictability but lower potential initial burden of Pennsylvania, who's better suited for the predictability but probably higher initial burden in New Jersey. So on the Pennsylvania side, buyers who are seeking lower upfront costs now. Maybe you know there's some big promotion coming for you. Maybe you know you're gonna switch careers and you know it's just going to take off, Pennsylvania might be a better side for you. If you're planning to renovate or improve the property, Pennsylvania makes sense. If you're very comfortable with long-term ownership, Pennsylvania makes sense. And buyers working with advisors who model reassessment risk feel comfortable working in Pennsylvania. On the other side, who would prefer New Jersey? Buyers prioritizing predictability, risk-averse buyers. New Jersey is going to be a much safer feeling side for you. Additionally, if you're focused on public schools, if you just don't want to, potentially get redistrict and now you're out of, maybe you're on the edge of a very good school and a school that you wouldn't feel as comfortable sending your kids, no judgments anyway, everyone should do what's best for them, then you probably want to stay in New Jersey because it's a very well-funded, very even public school system. If you're tighter with monthly budgets, probably better to go with that predictability so that you're not getting a reassessment that's going to suddenly bump you out of a comfortable budget into how are we going to make each month work. Finally, buyers who want simplicity in terms of long-term planning. You know where you're going to be. You're not doing variable models so that you can figure out what you're going to be paying in 20 years. You have a pretty good sense of it in New Jersey. That might be the place for you. So let's walk through very quickly what are some common mistakes buyers make on both sides of the Delaware. Comparing current tax bills without modeling increases, particularly important in Pennsylvania. But you should be doing it whether you're looking at Pennsylvania or New Jersey so that you understand how is my monthly payment going to look. Pepper the puppies in here. How it's going to look a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. Ignoring school district boundaries. I don't think many of you are doing that, but if you are, stop doing that. Even if you have no kids, never have planned kids, I don't care either way. It is going to have a direct impact on short and long-term home value and the taxes you're going to be paying. So immediate monthly payment differences. Hello, Peppy Puppy. Assuming that New Jersey is always too expensive. That is not the case. First of all, you can find lower tax burdens in New Jersey, but beyond that, the predictability and lack of spikes in your tax burden doesn't mean that you should just be looking at Pennsylvania. Assuming that Pennsylvania taxes won't change. Hi, pup. What's up, dude? They probably will change in Pennsylvania. Much more stable in New Jersey. And then focusing on taxes instead of total cost of ownership. This is the biggest one. You need to be looking at total cost of ownership. Obviously, the mortgage, your taxes, they're going to be your two biggest monthly burdens. But there's a lot of other factors that go into home ownership as well. Is it going to take a ton of upkeep? Is it an older house? Is it a newer house? Are you constantly going to be doing small projects? Do you have a pool? Because that's going to be seasonal changes. Do you have heavy landscaping needs? Because that'll be seasonal changes as well. You need to be factoring in all of these things to make the best decision for you. So the most successful buyers, what do they evaluate? Taxes, schools, overall purchase price, the lifestyle that you're looking for, and resale value. All of these things together will put together a picture of the long-term benefits, long-term total cost, and then you can build back into the monthly cost that is best for you. So the final takeaway, just looking at the tax burden as it sits just before the time of purchase is not going to be enough to accurately decide whether Pennsylvania or New Jersey makes more sense for you when you're looking to buy a home. Understanding that yes, New Jersey sometimes significantly has a higher tax burden than Pennsylvania. That is good to know, but also understanding the risks that come with that lower side in Pennsylvania. Reassessment might greatly increase your tax burden. You also need to understand that what you're looking at as you're buying the home could change on your first tax payment. So understanding whether you're risk adverse, if you're willing to handle some risk, what is your monthly payment, understanding what schools that you want to be around, both in terms of your personal preferences, but also in terms of resale value. All of these things are extremely important when looking at either the Pennsylvania side of the Philly suburbs or the New Jersey side of the Philly suburbs. So, like always, if you have any questions, please feel free to comment, reach out on any of the links below. I would love to help figure out which side of the Delaware is best for you. Thanks, and I'll talk to you guys next time.